is a space for honest conversations about relationships, desire, and non-monogamy, specifically through the lens of Black and POC experiences.
We're your hosts, Compersion Dan and She. This podcast exists because so many conversations around swinging and E&M don't sound like us, don't center us, or don't consider the cultural layers we carry into these spaces.
We're not here to convince anyone of anything, just to talk openly, ask real questions, and share what we've learned, what we're still learning, and what often gets left unsaid.
This podcast started as a conversation between friends, the kind you don't always hear out loud.
This isn't about labels or perfection, it's about honesty, curiosity, and creating a space for people who don't always see themselves reflected in these conversations. So, hello, She.
Hi. Hi,
Right.
Dan.
Right, I have a question for you. So, right, with our new podcast, I was thinking let's introduce ourselves to everyone. So, if I was to ask myself, who is she? And yeah, let's start with that. Who is she? Tell me a bit about yourself.
A bit about myself, would it be a bit about how I got into this space, or would it be just generally who I am? So
Ah,
I'm just a girl from South London who loves life, lives life, and enjoys life, and loves an easy life. All the things about life. But yeah, so that's me.
okay. And then you kind of preempted my next question. So,
Yeah.
what brought you into this lifestyle? Tell me a bit about the start of your journey and, what motivated you to go down this not so usual, but maybe more common than is often thought path. That's a long-winded way of saying, how did you get into this lifestyle?
My journey into this lifestyle was kind of like it was very interesting because I often think I fell into it somehow. And once I fell into it, I just loved it. I just, I thought it was something that I would love to do. But interestingly enough, it started with a split in a relationship that was it for quite a long time ago. For quite a long time, not a long time ago. And when that ended, I felt like after being in a long term relationship, there was something about me that wasn't aligning with how I would like to live my life. I didn't know straight away that I wanted to be in this lifestyle, but I just knew that there was something that wasn't aligning with how I would like to live my life moving forward. I was in my late 30s into my early 40s when I started, or when I got into this lifestyle. And it was through a friend that I knew who introduced me to another friend. And then that friend became my best friend, and somebody that I would go out to like swinging parties with. And then eventually I just got more and more interested in things that were happening within the lifestyle. And that's how I got into this.
Okay, no, that's very
Yeah.
interesting. I have a million questions, but perhaps that's something we can go over over time with the various episodes that we do. But yeah, that's thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah, it has been really interesting, and I think I was a bit reckless with it when I started. But when I say reckless, I was pretty much outside, as they say.
Yeah.
And as I've grown into it, I've just learned to tone things down slightly and become a bit more mature with it. Because obviously, as you know, my end goal to this, and I consistently say this, is to be in a ethically non-monogamous relationship with somebody, and just and have it grow from there. So that's where I'm at the moment, just trying to find myself and find my journey in this lifestyle,
Okay.
uh, and do it in the most open and honest way possible.
It's funny when you say journey because you know what you said about the early stages. I call that the
Yeah,
candy store phase.
that's the one. I think that was where I was at. That exactly explains my
Yeah,
experience at the time. It's
yeah,
like when you've got something in front of you that you think, oh my God, I really like this. And for someone that was very, very loyal to the person that I was with, I
yeah,
was committed to that person. It was being with one person. And now you find yourself in a single space on your own. You can do whatever you like. And that candy store mentality is what I had in my head.
yeah,
And I did go through, excuse my French, a few people just here, there, everywhere without even a care in the world. And I think most people do that as well. And I've seen some people that have got into the scene as I've sort of grown that
yeah,
have really just been in the same sort of trajectory. And eventually you do calm down because there's a feeling of emptiness that leaves you. It's very exciting to start off, and then eventually it just becomes something that is like, uh, I've done this now. So where do I go from here?
yes, that can be true, but it also depends on the person as well, because depending on what you want out of it, you can get what you could refer to as an empty feeling. I can certainly relate to that, but
Mm.
it was a while before I was conscious of that. So yeah, I had to go through various twists and turns to get to a phase like that. But again, that's something I can perhaps talk about in one of our episodes. But yeah,
Yeah,
I can certainly understand that. Yeah.
yeah. So that's where my journey started, and here I am today, and I'm just thinking, there's a never-ending pattern of growth because there's so many diverse things that Again, it's very much contextual when it comes to what we're doing and who you're doing it with, and just we crave, I think we crave acceptance, don't you think? Like in this spaces, or is it just me sometimes? I don't know. What do you think?
I think we do, but
Yeah,
it's one of those things that we're not necessarily conscious of.
yeah,
It's one of those. It's because this is you can either go into, how should I put it? You can go into automation mode. So what I mean by that is you can end up going through the motions again,
mhm,
especially if you're in the candy store phase and you don't
yeah,
necessarily pause to think about where you're going, what kind of direction you're in.
yeah,
Whereas depending on the type of person you are, if when you become more reflective, then yes, those kind of thoughts will enter your mind.
yeah, yeah. So it's. I mean, sometimes I think to myself, and I see people, and it's like you kind of remember that phase that you're in when you started, and I just think to myself, it's interesting to see people going through that, especially people that are coming into the lifestyle, and people of color or black people um, that are into this spaces for the different reasons, and I know that it is very much contextual in terms of where you are, because we all come in from different places and we just find ourselves in this space, and then you just have to sort of figure out where you fit in
Yeah,
the different sort of dynamics of what it is. Um so it's been really interesting just to see, just for myself, and just to see other people, um and I think there is a certain level of openness that we need to have. And we've had these conversations many a times about the openness and within the communities, and how much people should open up to. And obviously it's all down to comfortability and who's comfortable with what, which is something that I think can be encouraged,
yeah.
for people to leave their truths and their lives, really.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You've just touched on something. So you mentioned about being black. So that in a sense drives me towards the motivation between this podcast.
Mhm.
From your perspective, why do you feel that this podcast is needed?
Um,
From a Black POC perspective, I mean.
from me coming into the lifestyle, it was very much discretionary, and I understand this because sometimes we come from different backgrounds in terms of relational backgrounds, or maybe even um, in terms of sort of work related sort of spaces that we're in. And we've got this thing in our community where we don't want people to know our business, and it just carries on with most things. And I've looked at sort of other sort of communities, like the white communities. They really don't mind being out there and being known to be this way. So that's always made me curious. Why is it that us Black people, we want to sort of be behind closed doors with most things that we do, although we want to be open? That's never made sense to me. We want to be open, but we really don't want to be open, if you see what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
So, and I've been of the same sort of mentality, and I probably know you can relate to it as well. I just think to myself, why are we claiming to be open when we're not really open?
Yeah.
There's judgment, and we're really good at judging each other. Um, I still see it in the spaces when you go, you're still in the same space as somebody else within the lifestyle, but the person next to you is still judging you. They may be doing it quietly, but they're still judging you either way. There is discretion in that space, but still there is an element of judgment. So how do we shed this judgment for us to be open enough to express ourselves in the way that we should be?
Yeah.
And I think it goes deeper. Sometimes I think it's our upbringing as well.
Yeah. No,
A
that's
lot.
very true.
Yeah.
That's very
So
true.
so that's what I want to see. I would like to see a certain level of openness, even if it doesn't happen straight away. I think people need to see that there's people that can relate to what they're going through, and that might be an open door for them to be able to speak openly about certain things and allow them to just be free. I think we need to be free, don't you?
Yes, I agree. So,
Mm,
as you know, there's two sides to me. Yes, I agree, but there's stages to it.
mm,
But if you were to ask me what's one of my motivations for this, that's partly why the name is Club Biversity. So
yeah.
even within this environment, there is judgment. And broadly speaking, you could say there's what you might call a swinging community and a kink community.
Mm,
And within the kink community, there is, again, that there are biases and various types of prejudice. But from my perspective, the kink community is generally more accepting of bisexuality or bicuriosity or um, pansexuality from a male perspective.
yeah.
Generally speaking, both communities are welcoming of women who are not heterosexual, but the same is not the case when it comes to men. So, from the perspective of this podcast, that's one of my motivations.
Yeah. That's really good, which brings me to my question to you. How did you get into this space?
Right. So, from my perspective, it's been a bit of a long journey because I've been in the scene for plus years. So, who I was when I started is most certainly not who I am now. But broadly speaking, in terms of the question, how did I get started? I had what you would call a very, very conservative upbringing. And I followed a very conservative route in the sense that I got married young, but
Mm,
there was always something, eating away at the inside of me that felt that there's so much more that I hadn't explored.
yeah.
And I was married to a very conventionally minded person.
Hmm.
And well, the short version is full transparency. I'm not proud of it, but I
Yeah.
basically went astray.
Yeah.
Initially, I tried to find, how shall I put it? It was, what did they call it? Mission creep. It
Mm,
started with tiny, tiny steps. So I started
mm,
with a little bit of voyeurism in various swinging parties, and
mm.
then I ended up. This may sound a bit funny or weird. So
Yeah.
I went from voyeurism to being the the technical person that would film various antics at people's parties.
The videographer.
Yes, and then one thing led to another, and I ended up on the other side of the camera. So
Yeah.
that was the beginning of my journey.
Interesting though. I think most of us have started in that conservative sort of route. Because obviously you well, from a girl's perspective is you either go, well, for my background at least, and I'm sure a lot of people relate to this. You have sort of an aligned pattern of what is expected from you. You go to school, you go to university, you get a good job, you get a husband, you get married, and then that's the life that you live the rest of your life. Anything else outside of that is unacceptable. And I could sort of relate to that when you say that you lived that conservative life, because I think it's something that we've all gone through as Black people. And this is from all backgrounds. It may be Afro-Caribbean or maybe even Africans as well. So I can speak from my own perspective, from my African background, and that was what was expected of me. So I felt that that was the right way of living. I didn't know anything else outside of until I got introduced to the light. So yeah, so that makes sense. So how do you think being in the lifestyle has shaped your way of living from when you started to now?
Oh, that's a very layered question.
Uh,
Let me see what I can address with that question.
uh-huh.
Okay, so it's changed it in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
often when people approach me, because I've been living this lifestyle for such a long time, with so many twists and turns, people do sometimes come to me for my perspective of things.
Mm,
And one of the things that I say to people is this lifestyle can either make you or break you.
mm-hmm,
So for me, it made me in so many ways because although there will be challenges because we all have our insecurities,
mm,
but for me, it was a really powerful source of self-confidence because one of the things that I learned very early on in this journey is that
mm,
it really is a great leveler. I'm something of a people watcher. In
mm,
in the profession that I have, it's in many ways it's my job to be observant of people.
mm,
And one thing that I noticed is that despite the mask that people wear,
mm-hmm.
everyone has their insecurities. I don't care how
Yes.
handsome, beautiful, confident you appear to
Yes.
be.
Yes.
At the risk of sounding it like it's some kind of brag or boast, that I can see through the crap.
Oh no, absolutely.
I can, yeah,
I could not agree more, to be
yeah.
honest.
I
Yeah.
see the cracks, and there's
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with having those cracks. We all have our insecurities, and
Yeah.
to me, that's actually the beauty in people because when you
Mm,
have your insecurities and yet in spite of that you live your truth, to me that's very powerful. So that's where,
mm,
so you could say a lot of my strength comes from that. So it gives me my confidence because I know that I'm slightly repeating myself. However, people may present themselves, they're not as confident as they seem. And
no.
that in many ways is a great leveler from my perspective.
Yeah. I love that what you said. Living your truth is a power move. And this is what this whole podcast is about. That just having that power move to be able to say, I am who I am. It doesn't matter how you look at me. And also you saying about masks, how you just need simply just removing that mask or even just slowly just shifting it each time.
Yeah.
I think it would kind of open up a space for people to be themselves and to be allowed to be themselves. We could talk about a lot of things, and you mentioned cheating as well. That's a whole different conversation in itself, and why people do that as well. And that's one of my major icks in. I mean,
Yeah.
cheating is cheating, but also in like, which I experienced it myself with my previous relationship, and I saw it as nothing at the time.
Yeah.
When I say this, maybe people might find this really strange because I was really committed to this person and I thought that I would spend the rest of my life with this person. But obviously, there were other things besides that that were sort of playing in the relationship that caused us to split. And I think it wasn't, if it wasn't for those things and it was just solely the cheating, I probably would have still been with this person, having had a conversation about what happened and trying to figure out how we can sort of go past it.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes, and I've met people before and I've said to them, why, or maybe you realize that they are in married relationships already, they're living with a person, but then they're also outside doing other things. And I say to myself sometimes, why can't you just have a conversation with that person? But then again, it brings me to yours, where you had a conventional relationship with somebody who wasn't as open minded as you would have liked to, and that might have been a difficult conversation to have with this person to try and sway them to think in the way that you're thinking.
Do you know what? Let's leave that as a teaser for another episode. So,
Yeah,
because that is an episode in itself, so
yeah,
there's a lot of levels to that. So,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, let's leave that as a teaser
yeah,
for, because I'd really like to go into that properly. I'd really
yeah.
definitely like to go into that properly. So,
My
and
next question to you is, how are you looking to grow into this space? Because we're all growing every single time.
yeah,
What do you see your growth like in this space?
for me, it's never ending,
Okay.
and I'm always surprising myself. So, my motto is to be open-minded and truthful to myself. And because of that,
Mm,
seriously, where I am now is so unrecognizable from 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
yeah.
Yeah, it's, it's an ongoing journey. If
Yeah.
anyone says to you that they have all the answers, yeah, then they're not being truthful to either you or themselves.
So Dan, I feel like this is a great place for us to thank our listeners and bring our first episode to a close. I'm really looking forward to future episodes as we continue unpacking this fascinating journey that is E&M. So, where can everyone find us on social media?
We'd like to get input from lots of people, especially if they're on a journey similar to us or are thinking of going on a journey similar to us. So, a good way to reach out to us via FetLife is via a group that I formed, which is called New Club Biversity. Just look for that on FetLife. I understand that you don't really want to share your social media, so I just share mine. So,
Mhm.
if anyone was to reach out to my Instagram account, which is Coco Temptation London, that's COCOA Temptation London, and you will find information about Club Biversity and a couple of other projects that we're building as well.
Loads of things to look forward to. So, guys, stay tuned.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.